setting up an assumption, actual data analyzing, and then coming up with an insight. These are the three things that you really should be talking about when you get these questions during your interview. Hey folks, this is Young from Career School. So today I'll be talking about leadership principle once again. And today's leadership principle is dive deep. So I think dive deep is actually one of the most important leadership principle that differentiates Amazon with other big tech companies out there. I'm not saying that other tech companies are not using data in their day-to-day life, but it is just that much important for Amazon employees to actually look into data when they are doing their job in their day-to-day life. And dive deep is the leadership principle that I really look into when I mock interview my friends or when I actually interview people for roles at Amazon, because it seems like there are a lot of people who do not really understand what the leadership principle really means. People know that it's something about data, but it seems like they don't really get it when it comes to an actual interview. So today, what I want to do is I want to kind of dissect on what the leadership principle means and what is important to emphasize, and also share my sample answer when I was interviewing for a role at Amazon. Then let's get right into it. So first of all, what does dive deep mean? Let's go right into the leadership principle. Leaders operate at all levels, stay connected to the details, audit frequently, and are skeptical when metrics and anecdote differ. No task is beneath them. So as you can see, dive deep is a lot of different things. Surprisingly, it is not only about just checking out the data, but it means that someone has to be really on top of every single data if they are the actual owner of the task or the project, right? Like dive deep has really changed me a lot since I joined Amazon, because I'm not saying that I have not used data in the past when I was working in my other companies. But what I try to do here at Amazon is like every single decisions I make, like a very small one, for example, I try to make a reasoning for it. I try to use data for it and some people might say that, like, hey, it's really impossible for me to use data in my position or in my job, title, or in the industry I am. Not only in Amazon, but like, I kind of disagree on it. Like, there are always ways to add some data flavor to the anecdote you have or the story that you have. So if you are that someone, I would really encourage you to look into it in a different angle or look into it a little bit more to make sure that you add that flavor when you interview with Amazon. In my past companies, sometimes a lot of the things that I have done was just done that way for such a long time. No one really asked a question about it, right? Like, that's something really bothered me sometimes, but it seems like no one was bothered at that thing because, people were just saying, hey, it's working. Why don't we just do it that way? But it was just different for me. Anyway, that's why I really love this leadership principle, and I really like to really hone into it when I interview people or when I mock interview people, because this dive deep leadership principle, that's so much important. So when I think about dive deep, there are three things that I think is really important, and people usually get one of them correctly, but not the other two. So there are three steps. One is before you actually go into the data set. So I try to make this part as the goal setting or the assumption phase, right? You really got to have a good goal setting when it's something that you are working on, that you might have some goal. Or the other part is just the assumption setting. Like, what's your assumption? Like, because when you're looking into a data, there must be something that you're looking for, right? And what is that assumption? Try to emphasize that when you were interviewing. Second is the actual data analyzing part. People usually get this part right, but I really want to emphasize that, try to be more detailed on it. Like, try to be really specific on what are the data set you were looking. Like, how did you source those? Like, what were the tools that you were using? Was it just Excel? Was it Tableau? Or was it SQL? What are some of the data set you were using? And give specific examples like, hey, I use pivot tables, or I use these kind of queries on SQL to make sure that I get my data set correctly. And then I think third is probably one of the most important pieces. Like, what was the insight, right? Like, you had your assumption, you checked your data, and people usually forget to mention about the insight that led to an action later on. What insight was that, and why was that important? Because that insight is usually the whole reason that you actually worked on something for such a long time, like mining data and also going into SQL, going into Excel, like making that pivot table and all that. So make sure that you mention that insight when you are interviewing with someone at Amazon, because like that three things are the most essential piece when it comes to dive deep, in my personal opinion. So as you can see in the sample questions, it's basically asking you about a situation where you have to make an assumption or set a goal and analyze the data and derive an insight from it. So as I said, the three essentials: setting up an assumption, actual data analyzing, and then coming up with an insight. These are the three things that you really, really should be talking about when you get these questions during your interview. Lastly, I want to go over my sample answer when I was interviewing with Amazon about 2 years ago. I'll go quick on it. As usual, you should be using the STAR format, or the SCAR format I like to call the situation, challenge, action, result, and learn. So my story was when I was interning at Red Hat. So Red Hat changed their business model into a vertical setting recently, and I was in the telco vertical. But the new vertical setting, the telco vertical, was not really agile. And the leadership hypothesis of this was because of the org structure was not efficient. As an intern who coming in for the summer with a short time, my goal was to kind of figure out what was going on. And because I was the person with fresh eyes at the team, right? So what I have done was to kind of put some survey quantitative and qualitative, easy to answer and easy to reach to people, to dispersed team, a global team, not only in the US, APAC, Europe, EMEA, like everywhere. So that was one thing. And then I created the question and then deployed them, and then got like around 150 results within the 6 weeks time. And then I started cleaning up the data, everything using Excel, and also Jump and all that. I use Excel to do some pivot tables and trial and error charts, and Jump to do some text analyzing, because there are a lot of text answers as well, and some regression. And then meanwhile, to get more flavor to the data itself, I try to conduct interview with 30 plus people who I actually did the survey. So this is the part where I kind of dove deeper to get better insight, right? And then the insight I got was that there were people who are dedicated. They better understand and positively evaluate. So the insight I got was that people are really dedicated, because the new vertical was all about people who were in the telco business, and they thought that the knowledge sharing was really good. However, more than 50% of the people actually said that the org structure was inefficient. That's the opportunity that I saw, that we could actually make things better. So that was when I came up with the recommendation to expand and strengthen the vertical specific focused knowledge sharing, and also kind of reevaluate the org structure. yeah, so that was a story I have. So as I told you, not everything. This might not be a specific data type of answer that you were looking for, but anyway, I kind of shifted it around to make it a data story, right? Because I was using data and I mined some. I got insight by analyzing those data, right? So that was my story, and here I am in Amazon working as a marketing manager. Yeah, so that was it for today. Hope this really helped. I mean, dive deep is one of the most important leadership principles when you are interviewing or just working at Amazon in general. So hope you really get this one right. Leave comment or leave your story in the comment section below so that I can give you feedback or evaluate your story when it comes to dive deep. Please don't forget to subscribe, like, and share with your friends. And thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time.